Alrighty, so good afternoon, folks, and thanks for tuning in to my hour. You've already got a lot of my background. I want to set some ground rules. I will be teaching today in Excel 2016. It's really Office 365 Excel. For those of you on 13, 10, and 7, relax. You will be able to do everything that I do today. I tried things out on Doug the other night, and it seemed to work well. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of tips. Some of them will be really quick, but useful. Some of them will be a little more detailed. Doug, I'm assuming you're recording this.
Yes, David is recording it.
Did I call you Doug instead of David?
Well, that's fine. I've been called a lot worse.
You and me. So you'll have an opportunity to go back, and at the end of the session I will show you my email, and if you want any of the teaching files that I use, all you have to do is send me an email. So let's get started. And let's get started with something that you're going to laugh at probably. It's this. Now, I learned how to add in VisiCalc in 1979, so I'm giving my age away. And you're probably thinking, what is this idiot doing teaching me to add? Well, if you are normal, and I'm assuming most of you are, if I asked you to add these four numbers and I looked over your shoulder, you would go up here to the Autosum button.
Yeah, you have no numbers on your screen.
Huh?
There are no numbers on your screen. Just a blank. You're still on a blank worksheet.
That's kind of weird. How about now?
No?
It says my screen sharing is paused, David.
Okay, unpause it. At the top.
Yep.
What you did was you shared the Excel sheet and not the desktop, and you're trying to bring up a different Excel worksheet.
All right.
So you're going to have to stop the share, go back and share the desktop instead of just the worksheet.
I know there was a reason I liked you.
There you go. Yes.
All righty. So now, can I roll the tape back, please?
Yes.
So I've got four numbers here, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to add it up. The usual way to do that would be to go here, click on the Autosum, and hit the Enter key. And it works. And you probably learned that many, many years ago. So I agree it works, but I have a favorite phrase, and that is, it's too much work. And it absolutely is, because I'm going to undo this, and then I'm going to go up here, and you're going to have to take my word for it, but I am not going to hit the Enter key. I'm going to click on the Autosum button, and I'm done. Now, how come when I did it before, I had to hit the Enter key, and this time I didn't? Well, I didn't tell you the whole story. I didn't click once, I clicked twice. So if I double click on the Autosum, there it goes. Let's take this to a different level when we go here. And now that you know the Autosum trick, let's do it really fast. I'm going to go now to the bottom right-hand corner to the square, get the plus sign, click and drag. I'm going to go here. I'm going to double click, and I'm going to drag it. And that's pretty fast. Here again, this is really too much work. And here's the proof. Why would you go through all of that work when if you highlight and include the blank columns there and the blank row and you single click, I'm done. Now, I usually get a wow here, but I can't see your hands or your faces, so that's an example of where we're going this afternoon. Some of these tips are amazingly simple, and you're shaking your head saying, why didn't I know that? And some of them will be more complex. Let's move on. Continuing in the sum range with this. Now, what I've got here are 5 stores: Louisville, E-Town, Frankfurt, Lexington, and Bardstown. And I want a consolidation. In other words, I want to roll them up. Now, the way I used to do this was what I call the click, click, plus approach. Go equal here, go here, plus here, and then do some copying. And again, that's way too much work. So I'm in my consolidated cell worksheet. I'm in C7, and I'm going to type equal sum. And I'm going to go to Louisville, and I'm going to click on C7. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click on Bardstown. Excuse me. So notice up here what I've got. Add up all the numbers from Louisville to Bardstown in C7. And I hit enter. Voila. Let's check the math. They're all 200. So there's my formula again. Equal sum Louisville to Bardstown in C7. And now all I got to do is this. And we're done. But I'm going to show you a different spin on this with the same file. And the difference in this file is this. Notice that I have a new worksheet called Begin. And just so I know where I'm at, I've copied this little bit. And then when we go here to here, I've got an endpoint. So let's do this again. There's the consolidation. And I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to go equal sum bracket. This time I'm going to go to the begin sheet, not Louisville, and I'm going to click right there. And I've highlighted that so that I know where I'm at. And once again, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. Here we go. And I'm going to go to the end. There we go. And notice that I haven't finished the formula with a right bracket. Do I need to? Let me do that again. I should not talk so much. There we go. I got a problem here because my endpoint didn't seem to be working. So let's try it for the okay. And now we go to the endpoint. There we go. Done. Now, you're probably wondering why I added the blank sheets. Well, once I've done that, I can do this magic. So I only want the first 6 sheets. Or not 6 sheets. I only want the first 3 sheets. I want to see the numbers for Louisville, E-Town, and Frankfurt. Well, watch what happens when I click and drag and drop right there. And we go back to my consolidation. Notice 600. That's only the first 3 sheets. Let's drag it back here. And let's drag this. I only want 2 sheets. And there's 400. So that instantly allows me to change the math. And by the way, if you're still printing to paper, this is a great way to change your print settings. And I apologize for that mistake in there. Let's move on. Staying in the math with a different spin. So what I've got here is a rolling 6 months, in this case from March to August. And I want the numbers. And I'm going to do it in a different, well, I'm going to do it this way for starters. Double click. And do this. There we go. And then I could copy it down. And get rid of that. But again, that's way, way, way too much work. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to select the sum cells, holding down the control key. And then I'm going to click on sum. Well, that's kind of magic. But I want to do it again and a little bit different. And if your eyesight is really good, you'll notice that I've got a blank column here and here. And just like the last time, after I select the cell with the cells with the control key, I'm going to go equal sum bracket. And I'm going to go over here and start highlighting. And you notice that I did this at the bottom rather than the top. And I hit enter. And there we go. Now here's the reason in this case why I added the blank columns. Next month, I'm going to delete this column and I'm going to add a new column here. Well, with a normal sum formula where the start was there and the end was there, I'd have a mistake. But having that blank column there and including it in the math means that I can play with these to my heart's content. And one final one, which is this, and I got to get this up here so I can show it to you. I'm doing a budget for a consulting company, and I have the number of consultants. And they have different rates depending on what they're doing. And I have some budgeted hours. So up here, I want to know that. And I got that very easy, because the typical way to get this would be to go equal this times this plus that times that plus that, and so on. Instead of doing that, I'm going to use a little known function in Excel called sum product. There we go. I'm going to click on the first array. Comma. And the second array. And let's see what we came up with. There we go. Now, I have to admit that I don't use this very often, but a couple of times a year I will use this for budgeting. And this is one of the favorite tricks that I want to show you, and I got to personalize it. Back in 1999, I met a wonderful woman whose first name is Nancy, and I had the good fortune to marry her. And at that time, I was a solo consultant working all by myself. And Nancy, being a brilliant woman, figured out that there were things that she could do that would let me do what I love best, and that is market and teach. So she took over the admin slowly. And I don't know if any of you have ever done a bank consolidation or reconciliation at the end of the month, where you figure out what checks have come off, what haven't come off, and so on. And even in those days, early 2000s, in most accounting programs, you could be a bank rec. So I showed her how to do it and get it into Excel and do it. But she, being a non-accountant, said to me, "Alan, this doesn't look right. How can all of these numbers be negative numbers?" And I had a choice. I could have taught her the difference between a debit and a credit, or I could have changed these to positive numbers, which is what I'm going to do now. And the standard way to do that is pretty simple. We multiply this times -1. And then normally you would go here and copy it down, but let me show you a little trick. Instead of doing that, that is way too much work. So I'm going to go again to the bottom right-hand corner, get my plus sign, and double click. See what it did? (192 rows. Now, what Excel did was, when I double-clicked there, it looked to the left, and it took the number that was there, multiplied it by -1, dropped down, and repeated it. And again, that works. But the problem with this now is that I've got a formula here. So I'm going to do a copy. Sorry, not a copy. I'm going to do a cut. And then I'm going to go over here and do paste
Special.
Yep. And why didn't it give me paste values? All right, so I'm going to do it differently this year. I want to highlight all those numbers, and rather than drag down, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and you see the 4 arrows there? Holding down the Shift key, I've selected all those numbers. And now I'm going to click on Cut. And why am I not getting... This is really weird.
Copy back on yourself.
No, I need to get the paste special, David. So just let me talk you through it, because this should work. If I copy this, I've got the formulas there. You know, you're right. I just figured out something, the solution. There we go. Okay. Come on. All right. Well, that very definitely is too much work, especially when I learned something, which is that to do that, you cannot do a cut. You must do the copy and paste. So let's do this a little differently. Up here, and it doesn't matter where, I'm going to put a -1. And then I am going to select all of these the same way. Hold down the Shift key, select them all. Before I do that, I need to copy -1. And now we go here. And I'm going to go over here to paste. And I'm going to go down to paste special. And then down in the right-hand corner here, I have paste special multiply. Watch what happens now when I click on multiply and click on OK. Every single one of them changed to a positive. Now let's review how that worked. I've got -1 sitting on the shelf, and I've selected all of those cells, and I go here to paste special, multiply, and what I'm saying is multiply all of those negative numbers by -1, and it does them in a loop. Well, we're done the math now, so let's move on to something else, which is a favorite of mine. One of the challenges with Excel when we've got complex spreadsheets, and I'll get into some of those in a few minutes, is understanding the numbers. Now, there's nothing magic about this. It's sales, various products for the first half of the year. And I could go through this cell by cell trying to see what sells best, or I can do this. I'm highlighting the numbers, not the totals, and I'm going to, on the Home tab, go to Conditional Formatting. Highlight the cell rules, and greater than. So what I want Excel to do for me is highlight the numbers greater than 25,000. There we go. That's not 25,000, so we'll change this. And then those are good numbers. I don't want light red fill with dark red text. I want green fill with dark green text. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, these numbers are dynamic. And what do I mean by that? That number just got changed for some reason to 24,999. Did you notice it went white? And if I go down here to that one and make it 26,000, there we go. But in addition to that, I want to highlight all the numbers that are under 5,000. So again, we go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, less than, $5,000. Perfect. So now at a glance, I've got a dynamic worksheet that visually gives me some information, and I set it. Well, I'm not done yet. I'm going to hide these columns so that you can only see the total. There we go. And I'm going to apply some formatting or conditional formatting to here. Going to go to conditional formatting, and this time I'm going to go to data bars, and we'll go here. So notice what I've got. I got a bunch of blue bars, but the width varies. And the width of the bar is the relationship of that number to the maximum in the set, 175,000. So that's full, and this is that, and it goes. And I will use this a fair bit on the kind of work that I do in Excel for clients to make it easy for them to understand the numbers. Now I can get fancier in conditional formatting and go down here to icon sets. Well, what am I in the mood for? Well, let's do stoplights. Now this one's going to be a more of a challenge to you. What Excel has done is taken this set and broken the values down into terciles. So if it's red, that means it's in the bottom third. If it's orange, it's in the middle third. And if it's green, it's in the upper third. Now, there is a place where I do this for clients, and that is when I'm doing a budget to actual, and they're not really accounting conscious. I'll do a stoplight like this and say, any number in the green, it's good. Orange needs a little bit of work. Red, you're in trouble. And then finally, here, if I have a ton of numbers, I've only got about 14 here, I will go to conditional formatting and go down to, go to highlight the cell rules and go down to, go to top bottom rules and go to the top 10 items. And it instantly happens that these are sorted and those are the top 10. There we go. Now, I could do 5, so we'll bring this down to 5. Would help if I had this highlighted. Okay, let's do an undo and get it right. That's better. So now do you notice that as I change the numbers, the colors change? So there's 6. And I use conditional formatting a lot to make it easier for me to understand the numbers, and particularly with a client. All right, this is going to be one of the bigger topics between now and 4 o'clock Eastern Time. And it is something that came in 2007. Not a lot of Excel users have used it. So David, I'm going to ask a question here, and can give me and ask people to just put a yes in the chat window, and that is in the Home tab. How many of you have gone over to here and format as table? Quickly, I'd like to get a sense. Okay, we've got 11. And what's the total attendance, David? Oh, the 15.
Okay, 67.
All right. Okay, so about 25%. And from my perspective, this is one of the most useful functions in Excel. So what we have here is a data set. And I'll just quickly scan to the bottom. I don't know how many rows I've got. Oh, I got a lot. So let's do it the fast way. Only got 11,518 rows. So I'm going to click anywhere inside the data set, and I'm going to go here to Format as Table. I get this. Well, one of my favorite styles is this. And you'll see that in a minute. Now, because I'm inside the data set and there are no blank rows or no blank columns in the set, Excel is smart enough to say your data is from A1 to E11,518, and my table has headers. Okay. Now, at first blush, it just looks like it's done some really cool formatting. But we need to go below the hood for this. So I'm going to go over here and put in revenue for hours. Now watch what happens when I hit enter. I'm not going to take the time to go down 11,000 rows, but it has changed the shape of my data set to include this column. And now let's do a formula. So the formula is this divided by this. Wow. That was pretty easy. So let's look at a couple of other things that tables can do. And if you look up here, I have a new tab called Design, and I'm going to click on it. And this is where I design my tables, or I can do things. So we've got a checkbox here, banded row. I'm going to uncheck it. I'm going to check first column. Notice what it does. Last column. Banded columns. Every other one. Well, I'm not really into that. So we'll go back to banded rows. Now this looks interesting. Let's do a total row. There we go. Notice what it's done. It has automatically totaled the last column on the right. Now, I have some debates often with really, really good users and some people at Microsoft. And for 11 years now, I've been saying, that is really great. But why do I have to copy? Why doesn't it do these? And I still don't get an acceptable answer. So there's an overview of tables. Let me do one more, and actually two more. I've already created that table, so we'll move on. And that is, once we have a table, it's very easy to manipulate it. If I draw your attention up here to those, and those are filters. So if I click on industry, and just click on the first three, and I suspect most of you know what's going to happen here. We only get the three. If I click on hours billed, the same thing. But look, when I click on there, that I get number filters. Equals, does not equal, greater than, less than. There's our top 10 again. Let's click on it. And it can't find the top 10. If we go here to text on this one, again, text filters. Equals, does not, begins with, and so on. And I could do the same thing for dates. But I want to take this, even that's too much work for Alan. So I'm going to undo this. Oh, that's why it didn't work, by the way. It already had a filter there for just 3. And I'm going to add a bunch of rows here. This should do it. I just realized that I lied in my introduction because I said that all of you were going to be able to do this. Only those of you on 2013, 2016 are going to be able to do this. What I'm going to do here is go to the Insert tab, way over to the right, and you'll notice that I have a slicer there. I'm going to click on it. And it's telling me, do I want to do slicers on the dates? No. I want to do slicers on the service line and the service and the industry, and I'm going to click on OK, and you're going to see what slicers are. So we're going to put that there. We're going to put this there. Okay, so now I want cloud services. There's all cloud services. I want technology services. I want technology services in aerospace. So isn't that a cool way of doing filters? Now, if I want to put it back together again, I click on the funnel with the X. And if I want to do cloud services and virtualization services, I really merely use the control key, and so on. And if we go up now, we've got a special tab line for things. So let's do this one like that. Let's do this one like that. And let's do 2 columns. And there we go. So as I said, slicers only work in 2013 and 2016. So David, I'd like to do another poll real quick now, and that is, I'd like to know how many of you have worked with pivot tables. All right, looks like 23, no, we're going. Oh, that's a really impressive number, almost half. Well, 2 things. First of all, slicers work also in pivot tables. And secondly, a pivot table is nothing more than a summary report. And those of you that are using pivot tables know that if you add data to the bottom of your data set, you have to go into the pivot table and change the range. However, if before you create a pivot table, you format it as a table, then all you've got to do in the pivot table is right mouse click and click on refresh, because as I showed you, the data set expands. So my rule is I will never ever create a pivot table without creating the underlying format as table. All right. There's times, this is another way, by the way, of rolling it up. I started off with the rolling things up by using the sum, but here's a different spin. I've got product design department, I've got prototyping, and I got field testing, and I want the totals here. Well, I could do the equal sum, or I could use a little known function under the data set or data tab, and that is right here, Consolidate. So it's data tab, Consolidate. And I click on that, and Excel wants to know, do I want a sum, et cetera, or account? Well, I want a sum. And it wants to know where the first set is. So we'll go over here to prototyping, and I don't need the row names or the column names, so I'll highlight that. So I got it right. I click on Add. I go to Field Testing. I click on Add. And I missed one. What did I miss? Product Design. And I click on Add. Now, if your eyesight is really good, the data sets are identical. B6 to F18 and so on. I don't need the top row. I am going to create links. And I click on, there we go. So it's done the data set, and let's just take a moment to prove it. So product design is 12,500. 15, that's about 28,000. That's about 37,000. And we got it right on. However, if you look at the left-hand side, if we look at the formula of 37.5, all it says is, let's sum B7 to B9. Well, there is no B7 to B9 until I click on the plus sign here. And when I do that, it's just a two-step process. What it did was it said, I got 3 departments. I better insert 3 rows here. And then I need to bring in 9,400 from the total of the first set, and so on. There we go. And then it just adds them up. And I can expand these to my heart's content. What am I going to do for my swan song? Oh, absolutely. Here. So just to warn you that in about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to wrap things up, David, and look for questions. Okay. I want to show you a little trick here. This is a little bigger spreadsheet in terms of the number of sheets. So often, to find a sheet, I've got to do this and this, but I really don't. Because regardless of how many sheets, if I come down here in the bottom left-hand corner, underneath, in this case, the 20, and I right mouse click, there are all my sheets. And I've got workbooks with 50, 75, 100 sheets. All I do is go here and click on OK. Done. Now, this sheet is called Project Metrics. And it is a summary sheet or a special report containing the assumptions from this sheet, cost of power from this sheet, and a cost of capital. Now, the standard way that you people would do that would be, that most people do that, would be to copy paste, and that works just fine. But I want to show you a brand new way of doing that. And I'm going to use the camera in Excel. Oh, I can't resist this, David. How many of you have used the camera?
Not getting a whole lot of responses on that one.
Okay. Now, what am I talking about? Well, if you look here at the quick access toolbar, there's a camera. Now, you won't have that until you do this, and that is right mouse click, customize the quick access toolbar. And Microsoft conveniently has a couple of 100 icons that you could use in your quick access toolbar. I only want the camera in this case. And to help you out, Microsoft has grouped these. The first group is popular commands. Well, most of the ones that I want aren't in here. So I'm going to go here and go to all commands. And then I'm going to slide down to the C's. Right there. And I'm going to click on add, and it's not going to take it because I've already got it there. And it's right there. So now let's go back to here. And that's how I got it there. But now how do I use it? Well, I'm going to go to the adjacent model. I'm going to highlight this. And instead of doing a copy, I am going to click on the camera. And nothing's going to happen, except my mouse is going to change. So here's my blank. Can you all see the plus? Well, I merely left mouse click, and there we go. And I'm going to go to cost of capital and go here. Click on the camera. We'll put that over here. And then we'll go to the cost of power. And we'll get this. Back here. And we'll put it here. Now, I suspect some of you are yawning and saying, what's the big deal, Alan? I could have done that the same way in the same amount of time using copy-paste, and you're absolutely right. But here's the magic. I'm going to go here, and you notice that's 40 million. I'm going to change it to 80 million and hit enter. Notice what's happened. So what I've built is a dynamic report based on data coming from other worksheets. And my report is dynamic. If there are any changes made to any of these cells in any of the 3 worksheets, it'll update. And to me, I will most often use the camera rather than copy paste. And on that note, David, how are we doing for questions?
So far, we don't have any.
Well, I'll give people 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then if I don't get one, I'll do another. Okay. Yeah, while we're on the topic of multiple worksheets, this is the same worksheet. Okay. And I'm working here and here. And the key number for me here is this one right here, net income after tax. Did you notice that I had to go over and down and change the sheets? Well, instead of doing that, I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to go to data. Sorry, I lied. I'm going to go to formulas, and notice over here, watch window. And if I move this up there so you can see it, I already have a watch, so I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to add a watch. And that watch is that cell right there. So notice what I've got up in the watch window now. It's telling me the file. It's telling me the sheet. It's telling me the cell and the value and the formula. And now I'm over here or here. So I've got those KPIs, key performance indicators, set up. Now, the way it is now, it's at the top of the spreadsheet. However, I could have it floating, so it just pops up as a window. So I'll use that again on my large spreadsheets. And on that note, it's 3:58 according to my clock, David.
Right. That's it. We want to thank you. And as I said, after you did that, we did get some questions. But what we will do is I will have them mailed to you, and you can respond back to them.
All right, we got a couple of minutes,
Well, if you
David.
want to
So,
do well, the two of them we can get done real quickly.
all righty.
The camera available in 2007 and 2010.
Is which?
The camera.
Yes.
Okay, well, you just answered two of the other questions. And the other, we did so good. How do you edit the title of the sheet? I'm not sure what they're asking, but
let's go here. Now, is the question dealing with that or that? In other words, is it the sheet name?
I don't know. Barry, can you be specific?
All right, let me cover both of them in the interest of time, David.
Okay.
To edit the title, I can do it two ways. I can double click, which gives me my insertion point, or I can go up here. If I want to edit the sheet name, I just double click on it and put it in.